Everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, take F-T-C-T. Suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me, Irish way. Suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me. Woo, hey, Irish way, just a little bit. I get tired.
Welcome back. This is Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata on 650 CIL. We have in the studio with us Dan O'Hearn, who is the managing broker for Quay Pacific Property Management in New Westminster. And respect, it's one of the things that works incredibly well in strata communities when there's a very healthy level of respect between the strata council and the strata manager and the owners, a respect for the professionalism and the work that's done and the undertaking of the work that's done. And there are a lot of tasks, I think, that strata managers do that most owners are not aware of. And one of the big challenges, or one of the management obligations that managers have to deal with, often comes down to the relay and transaction of information when there's a sale of a strata lot. I'm a buyer. I come along. I've got my real estate agent. We're looking at a unit. Next thing I'm saying, well, you know what? Let's get some more information about this. So who do they go to?
Typically, it'll be a realtor will initially contact us when they have a property that's for sale, and they're going to ask for a Form B, which is the information certificate that's going to outline things like maintenance fees, what might be outstanding, any special levies, unregistered bylaws, or special resolutions, parking, lockers, all that good stuff, so that they can, be informed about the property and discuss it with the potential purchasers. And they should be reviewing some of that information with the homeowner too to make sure it's accurate.
So parking and storage lockers, though.
Yeah.
Big issue in some strata corporations.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the challenges that we've had is that it's been fairly informal in a lot of strata communities. They don't actually have published records and lists and maps of how parking is allocated and who has what storage lockers and what's a surplus and how they're allocated and used. But when I buy in and the seller says on their listing, this strata lot comes with parking lot 56 spaces, 56 and 57.
Mm-hmm.
Can I rely on that, or what should I be looking for as a buyer?
Well, that's the purpose of the Form B, right? To make sure that that's the document that you can rely on. So,
Yes.
So you probably shouldn't be relying on what the homeowner says, and so the purchaser is going to be getting that information. You have to look at the bylaws, or perhaps even more importantly is on that parking space, whether it's a common property or a limited common property or part of the strata lot, because people don't realize that if it's common property, it's that space is assigned by the strata council to you, and though maybe it's been there forever, it's not necessarily guaranteed you have that spot forever.
Right.
And there's been a few court cases, about that very issue, right? So that's one thing to be concerned, or not necessarily concerned about, but be aware of. And exactly the same situation is going to be for the lockers. And the confusion we find is going to happen mostly on the older strata corporations. Anything brand new that's being developed now, the developers understand this obligation, and we're getting schedules right from day one. But trying to create those schedules for old buildings, we have old townhouse sites that have like storage areas underneath stairs and stuff on a stacked townhouse, and people just built in lockers wherever they could make things fit.
I bet you that complies with code.
And so here we're going around trying to figure out who actually has lockers where, and like you said, code. Can these lockers be here even, right? And so that's a process that takes a bit of time, and it needs collaboration with the council and with the homeowners themselves, right?
So, and stratas have to remember, and a buyer remembers, and the strata council remembers, when the property manager fills out a Form B and signs the Form B, it's really the strata corporation who's doing it. Right, and
yeah.
You're part of, an extension of the strata corporation as the agent of the corporation.
We're agents for the corporation, and so we're acting on your behalf. And most strata councils don't even see the Form Bs that are being produced. It'd probably be prudent actually to get a copy of one every once in a while, to see what's going out. I know I've been in the real estate industry for close to 30 years, and on a very recent transaction where a family member was buying a condominium, I received the Form B, and it was embarrassing to see what was being provided to realtors. Perhaps I was overly critical, but I don't think so. There was errors on there, and I think we can't take this lightly because the purchaser can rely on that documentation.
Well, and I've just spent $700,000 for a
Yes,
condo to find out that the information that was
was wrong.
disclosed was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm probably, and if I'm going to be exposed to any kind of liabilities, I'm probably going to turn around and sue the Strata Corporation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, and you know the buying public really they have to take some time to educate themselves. They may love the unit and everything, but they really got to read the bylaws. They got to examine the form, see what the disclosure is. What's the financial condition or situation of the Strata Corporation? It's all well and good to say the maintenance fees here are really cheap. That's good. Really low. You know, I want low maintenance fees. Well, what's the history of
That's not good, actually.
you know, why are they low? What's
Yeah,
the history?
exactly.
What's the financial
Exactly.
situation of the Strata Corporation, right?
Yeah.
If maintenance fees are high, you know, the buying public may be concerned about buying in there, but look at the financial statements. If they have a whole bunch of money in reserves, this is a good thing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So don't just and then go have a look at your locker spaces. Look at the strata plan. I've never met a buyer that's actually looked at a strata plan to understand you know what they're buying into, whether it's common property or LCP. So and I think realtors need to take a little bit of an active role. And I love realtors because I am licensed and I've been around for 30 years. But please, you know, realtors, order the forms early. Don't rush at the last minute. Be professional, right? And help your buyers understand what they're getting into as well.
So, but you said a key word there. Don't rush forms at the last minute.
Yeah.
So, what happens when a realtor or somebody who's doing conveyance, the notary or the lawyer's office, calls you
Mhm.
the day before the transaction? They say,
Mhm.
"Hey, wait a minute. We need a Form B to disclose the information, and we
Tomorrow.
need a Form F
Yeah.
for the payment certificate so we can transfer this title."
Mm.
What happens under those circumstances?
It's going to cost money.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you know, in the industry, everyone's getting upset about these rush charges. Okay, well, here it is. You can get this. We have 2 weeks to deliver an information certificate, and if you get a listing today, you know, why don't you order the form today so you have it? Then you're not going to get any rush fees. But as an industry, we've recognized that sometimes there's unrealistic demands to get this documentation, and what we earn for the form is going to be the same. It still needs to be accurate, 100%. And so if you want delivery tomorrow, what happens? We end up dropping everything to get that done for you. And so you'll see in the industry there's rush charges anywhere from 100 to I've heard as high as $1,000 for like next day delivery, right?
right.
So be prudent, be professional, and order the stuff in advance.
Well, and the forms are not something that are just on the shelf that you pull off and photocopy,
No,
right?
it
They-
changes every month. The numbers are going to be different, right?
Right.
Every week there could be a new bylaw or a new notice going out, or there could be an arrears for that particular unit. So it's very dynamic.
Well, and I've had recently someone write into me from the paper about asking about, you know, we weren't disclosed a lawsuit that was filed against the Strata Corporation.
That's terrible.
And well, it was, except for when I started talking to them and working through the time periods, they literally got their Form B of a unit that they were purchasing on noon on a Wednesday,
Okay.
and the lawsuit was filed on the following Friday. So
Right.
you know, the consumer
Yep.
is also needing to be aware that these documents have time shells to them. You know,
Yes.
Form B is only valid for the information it represented the moment it was issued. That could change in 6 hours, right? And that's one of and there's no way of knowing or anticipating that you're about to be served notice over a dispute. So the Strata Corporation represents the information, but a lot of that burden falls also on the manager's shoulders when we're dealing with disclosing that information.
Very true, and it scares me. You know, we go through a triple check process. I mean, the accounting department has a run through this form. Then it goes to the property manager and the administration who have a go through the form, make sure all the proper attachments on there, and then before it leaves the office, a senior manager, the VP operations, will have a review of the form too. So we like to feel after it's been, you know, triple checked, that it's accurate, and that's why it can't be produced in just hours. I mean, people are busy throughout the day, and you have to calmly sit down and review this document and make sure it's accurate.
One of the chronic issues that we see is if there's been an alteration to a strata lot.
Right.
Somebody's been given permission.
Yeah.
They may have entered into an agreement with the strata that they'll be responsible for costs to the alteration of the strata lot or the common property. And that's not disclosed. Subsequent purchaser comes along. So, but what it says to us, or what it's an indication of when a Form B is requested, is there may not have been suite files that have been maintained. No one's maintaining records exclusive to each of the suites in the building. So the screening process for everyone to verify the administration, agreements, financials, disclosure of information, parking is absolutely critical in the relationship. Again, goes back to how much time does it take? It's fine to say we're compensated, but I'm a manager, and I may have, if we're lucky, I might only have 3 or 5 properties that I'm managing, and they're reasonably large properties. But how much time does each one of these actions take? We're doing 5 transactions in each one of these properties every month. You start generating that into the number of hours that are consumed by administering this alone. It's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming workload.
It's definitely a full-time job. You have people doing it full time. And on those undertakings, do I have a minute to speak about it?
Absolutely.
On the undertakings, it's what we try to do there is first of all, when somebody should be asking for permission to do any of those renovations, the permission is granted, they'll sign the undertaking, and then we'll ask subsequent buyers to also sign on that undertaking.
Right.
And if you go into a unit and you suspect it's been upgraded at all, you should be looking for an undertaking. And because if there wasn't, if they just put in hardwood floors before you went to buy the unit and it's against the bylaws and you have a quick completion, there is going to be some grief on that.
Yes. Yeah. So another role, of course, Strata Corporation's doing annual inspections of strata lots for maintenance and for operations. Who's doing that work, right? How frequently are they being done? Another one of the mysteries that we're left with in the relationship and the responsibilities. When we come back, we're going to talk about asset management and the operations. So how much time is your strata spending actually managing your physical facility in your buildings and looking at your operations?
Great.
I'm Tony Giaventu. I'm Dan O'Hearn from Quay Pacific's Property Management in New Westminster. This is 650 Sea Isle. Talk about strata.
This is Experts on Call on Sea Isle 650.